Okay, well, we'll be praying for the folks that are still recovering from Helene and will be for years, well as this latest one, which is called Milton, that's right. And on our app and via check, you can give a donation to Silverdale Lutheran for the Lutheran disaster response.
And it says hurricane on it.
And it says, yes, and so it says in the app, it says hurricane relief. And I will probably have Cheryl, our treasurer, after this Sunday, send a check out. Now that we've had some time for some funds to come in, and then we'll send one, from SLC out. It's a little slower that way versus you just going in and giving directly to Lutheran Disaster Response or Lutheran World Relief. But it's kind of helpful for us to see what our congregation, members of our congregation are doing, so.
But it's also safer.
And it is
You
safe.
might come across some that are not legit.
That's true, good point.
Can you still write a check?
You can still write a check, just put in the memo hurricane relief. Yeah, or put it in an envelope and say hurricane relief. Yeah, absolutely, you can do that, absolutely. Welcome, good to see you. Good to have you with us. Remind folks of your name, just since.
My name's Mike Collier. I was here a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
I believe you were out at that time.
Yeah, I was away. And Mike is married to Dorothy.
See what you guys were up to now.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. His mother-in-law is Evelyn Bren. Some of you might know Evelyn. And she had was it hip surgery or knee surgery?
In her hip, it was pelvis. So
Yeah.
It didn't break her hip per se, but some bones in her pelvis.
Right. So how's she doing?
She's great. She's back home and she's trying to chase everybody out so she can have her house back.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Mike, great to have you here again. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's see. We've got potluck anniversary celebration. Kind of the second celebration of our anniversary. I know they are going to have some of the displays that were at the gala a number of weeks ago there. So this is partly for those who couldn't come to the gala or couldn't afford it, or just, if Friday night or Saturday nights don't work. So we're gonna have a lovely potluck this Sunday, and I will be speaking again. I'll say something different. And I don't know what other parts of the program, what other speaking they're gonna have. So the anniversary committee's cooking that up. Yes?
Was there a video or anything made of the gala?
So we had our videographer set to record it, but she got really sick. So what we did is we had everybody take videos with their phones, and we took one of the whole room with an iPad. Eventually, we're hoping that either she or someone else with good video skills will be able to kind of splice those all together, but it's not available currently. Yeah, so great question.
I could also never decide how to pronounce that for gala.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I should have squeezed you all up in the rectangle section, but anyway, that's fine. When you share your great insights back there, you'll have to just talk loud. Everybody needs to talk loud so we can hear. So that's what's going on. We have that coming up this Sunday. We have Joan Bowers memorial service this Saturday at noon. The graveside is for family before that. Thanks for your prayers with Sandy's mom's committal that we flew down for last weekend. So that went well, went smoothly. I'm sure glad I don't have to battle Sacramento traffic anymore. Although I'm just glad I don't have to battle Seattle traffic either. But it's lovely being on this side of the water. So, yeah, we had a good trip, and then Laura's service will be the next Saturday at noon as well. Yeah, so that's what's coming up. Any other prayer concerns, announcements? You know. Show and tell, no. All right. Well, I am excited to get close to finishing maybe today. We'll see, we'll see. And then, we need to have a discussion about where we're going next. I have had one person throw out the possibility of looking at Job. I don't know if I can endure the whole book of Job, though, but maybe we could take some selected readings from Job and dive into that. It's a great book. So, all right, I have recorded, I am on Facebook, I will share, and it doesn't look like we have anybody logged in today, so.
Did you record?
And I did record, thank you. So we did a lot of cutting stones and creating of curtains and all kinds of great stuff, and we had a great conversation about that. I couldn't remember exactly where we left off, but I'm pretty sure that it was about 36. Am I wrong on that? 37, yeah. Yes, that's right. We had all the curtains made and all that. Yeah. Making of the ark. Perfect. Anybody want to read so I don't have to say all the names? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, let's pray and we'll get at it. Gracious God, thank you for our study time and this great group of folks who love your word. Let this time be helpful and fruitful. Let it truly touch our hearts today, that we have a covenant that makes all the difference. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. I just had this bad thought that maybe I started the wrong Zoom meeting. So let me look and see which one I got going. Thursday morning Bible study. No, we got it. Good. Okay. We're all right. Bezalel made the ark of acacia wood. Wait. Yeah, or were we right at construction of the tabernacle? I think that's where we did. So let's go back to verse 30 of chapter 35. Then Moses, wait, no, I'm way too far back. What happened?
37.
Yeah, what happened? Making of the ark. Okay, I don't know, my computer's messing with me. Bezalel made the ark of acacia wood. 2 cubits and a half was its length, 1 cubit and a half its breadth, and 1 cubit and a half its height. And he overlaid it with pure gold inside and outside, and made a molding of gold around it. Boy, it looks just like it does in the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And he cast for it 4 gold rings of gold for its 4 feet, 2 rings on its one side and 2 rings on its other side. And he made poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold, and put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark to carry the ark. And he made a mercy seat. Let's see, mercy seat of pure gold. Let's pause here. Mercy seat. Yeah. So the word here is kafar, which means atonement. So mercy seat. So it's a covering for the ark, but it's also the meaning of the word is to smear or pitch, to appease, to make atonement. So it has to do with the shedding of blood, which has to do with the life was in the blood, and that atoned, wiped away, took away the sin of the people. So This is called the mercy seat. So it's the lid on top of the ark. It's the lid. It's the mercy seat. Yes, please.
Well, it happens that the Jewish people right now are celebrating Rosh Hashanah.
That's
and
right.
come over to Yom Kippur, which
Yeah.
is all part of that mercy and atonement thing.
It's the Day of Atonement coming up. Yeah, one of the true holiest days for Jewish, or probably the most holy day. Yeah, absolutely. So this ark is the box that they're gonna put the table of the law, the Ten Commandments, and perhaps however many other laws that are part of that. That's always been a little ambiguous for me. So they're gonna have it so they can carry it, because you can't touch, you don't, this is a holy vessel. And we're gonna see, if we were to go on in the historical books of the Old Testament, that the ark had a certain power. I think the Philistines will steal the ark in a battle, and everybody has has boils and plagues and all kinds of stuff. So they like, here, take it back, you know? So, and then when they moved the ark, I think when they moved it from into the temple, you know, there was specific ways, as we're gonna see, on how you move it, and, you know, because it's a dangerous thing, because it's so holy that it can harm you. So that's a concept that we need to think about as we go forward, but let's get some more text on board here, and then we'll, okay. Supposed to carry the ark, and he made a mercy seat of pure gold, 2 cubits, we got that, Brett, and he made the cherubim of gold. He made them of hammered work on the 2 ends of the mercy seat. 1 cherub on the one end and 1 cherub on the other end. Let's see here. Let me just do something here. All right, here, let's do that. Cherubim, a Hebrew term denoting an unnatural composite being associated with sacral context in the Bible. Boy, that helps. Although cherubim are mentioned 92 times in the Old Testament, no single type of creature is referred to in all cases. Because, you know, you think about cherub, you think of an angel for us. Rather, the term represents a variety of fanciful beings. The only feature found in many of the biblical usages, particularly in connection with the arks of the Tabernacle and of the Solomonic temple, and also with the visions of Ezekiel, and not contradicted by other usages, is that the cherubim were winged. So that does seem to be the unifying thing, that they were winged. Again, you know, I can't get Raiders of the Lost Ark out of my, you know, head. They have those like these, almost like eagles, but they've got these wings. You know?
In Revelation.
Are they mentioned in Revelation? Good question. I don't know. I can find out real quick. But let's see if they mention that in this article here. Otherwise, specific details are either absent or contradictory. For example, the ark cherubim apparently have a single face, whereas in Ezekiel, temple cherubim have 2 faces, and the Ezekiel vision cherubim have 4. The character of the faces ranges from human through bovine, leonine, what is that? Lion, okay, okay, sorry. And Aquila. Aqua, yeah, maybe, okay. And the body is sometimes piped. Like us, got it. And in other instances, quadruped, thank you. Such variations confirm the underlying principle that the cherub was a hybrid and hence unnatural creature. As natural beings, cherubim are always connected with the deity. They appear in direct association with the mobile god as his steed. or parts of his chariot or his components of his throne. I had no idea that cherubim were so diverse, and that's fascinating. So components of his throne, so the ark passages, one of which we're reading. They are indirectly associated with God when they are guardian figures amidst sacred vegetation. As both actual beasts and plastic representations of such beasts, the biblical cherubim share in the contemporary iconography repertoire of composite beasts well known from the ancient Near East art. Oh, of course. The biblical cherub is thus totally different from the chubby children often depicted in religious art in the West. Oh, that's great. I'm gonna help Audrey here on her question real quick.
Is there cherubim in Isaiah?
Yes, yeah, well, in the vision in Isaiah 6, I saw, when he swept into the temple. Let's see, cherub.
Often we see the phrase cherubim and seraphim, so I just looked up seraphim. And
Cherubim and seraphim.
that's the conventional angel that most people picture.
Okay, so the seraphim is more of the conventional angel, okay. Let me just do this real quick. Okay, all by text, no. Do it first. Okay, well, that's fine. We can go this way. So we got. Just in the Old Testament here, English Standard Version, all Bible text. They keep changing my program. Okay, this is what I want. I want Revelation. Johannine literature is fine. So no results of just cherub.
Lots of angels in
Yeah.
Revelation.
Right. So a lot of angel. I saw this angel. I saw that. How do you spell seraph? C-S? Yeah, here, just one person, please.
S-E-R-A-P-H,
Slow down.
Sarah,
S-E-R, so it goes right to the E. Yeah. Sarah. There we go. I just couldn't remember. There was. So is there any seraphs in the Johannine literature? No. Okay, interesting. Well, there you go, Audrey. So they're referring, you could say they are there, but they're there under, like an angel.
So many other weird things in there.
Yeah. Okay, so very cool. We've got the ark described. Do you remember where we started with this story in Exodus? Who starts the story in Exodus? No, going way back. You've got the people, they're in trouble because they're enslaved in Egypt, and there's a little baby, and there's some midwives that Moses, and what does Moses put in? It's the same word. It's the same word in Hebrew. It's translated as a basket because it's a kind of ark. And then, so I wanted to make this connection with the Ark of the Covenant, with the ark that Moses was put in. Going further back, wasn't there another ark in creation? Genesis, the flood. What did Noah make? An ark. It was a lot bigger than this one, but it's still an ark. It's a boat. Moses would put in a little boat, a little basket. And I think those connections are important. How did God rescue the people in an ark? How did God rescue Moses in an ark? What is this ark doing? It's a kind of rescue. Okay, yes.
Here's another connection. Jesus walked on the water.
Yes.
When Jonas defies God, he gets submerged into the ocean. So the ocean represents sin.
Yes.
And danger, and Jesus walks above it because he's above sin.
Right. That's a great point, Andrew. The waters were chaos, and a bad abode. They were, even sailors were very scared of that.
Is a manger an ark?
Okay, now you're talking. It's not called an ark,
Well, I know it's.
but isn't it kind of
Yeah,
an ark?
I think so.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, in a way, you could call Jesus our
yes,
Savior.
because he saves us, right?
What a danger.
Now, let's just keep going, and then we've got the manger, like, and that's what Linda was wondering about. We have this beautiful northwest sanctuary, which I love, and I would never want to go back to the long, narrow churches. They just don't work very well in our culture today. They work, but it's a challenge. People want to feel more apart. You know, you don't see these long, narrow, when they make new churches today, or these big box churches. They're more of a square or a rectangle that's, you're not at the far end of the rectangle, you're at the front. So, however, one thing, function versus meaning. Most churches in the past have been built with an upside down ark. Why is that? Well, because the church is the kind of ark that gets you through this struggled, broken life to the promised land. Okay, so the church has been understood as a kind of ark, because what does the church carry? It carries the gospel, it carries the word, it carries the covenant, it carries the word and the sacrament to people. That's what it brings to people.
It brings out the idea of community.
Yes,
And
sure.
bringing us.
Right, we're together. Yeah,
That's why it's important to not be de-churched.
that's why it's important to not. That's why worshiping from home exclusively misses something. Yeah.
I'm sure the people in Florida wish they had arks.
Yeah, absolutely. So the concept of an ark is just rich with meaning for us. Yes, yeah,
I was just thinking about the atonement cover
yes,
and, how symbolically, to me anyway, it kind of protects us from the law. I mean, the law is what's in there that's covered.
yeah,
We can't reach God that way.
Yeah.
It kind of protects us in a way from that. Yeah.
I'm gonna try and reiterate what you said so everybody can hear. Kathy said that she was thinking about the cover, the coppereth, the mercy seat, the cover of atonement. And that kind of protects us from the law. Because the law, although is a gift from God, is a big problem because we don't keep it. So that's interesting. That is interesting to me. The only thing I would want to add into that is that the law, is it just the law that's in the ark? Or is it the promise too? The Abraham promise? Is it, obviously not all 5 books of the Pentateuch are in there, but at the beginning of the 10 Commandments, what does it say? What is the first commandment? Come on. I think I heard you. Did anybody say, I am the Lord your God? That's the first part of the 10 Commandments. So that is a claim that God has made on the people. And so that's a promise. So I think that would.
So the ark is the rescue, but the atonement cover is part of the ark.
Is our rescue. Absolutely. This is where I think you're just right on. Because it's like the ark brings us the whole story, and the cover of atonement brings us the gospel. You know, because that is the mercy. I mean, if you had to pick one word that describes gospel, mercy is it. So God's mercy for us, with us, to us. And so, yeah, I think you're on, I like that. I like it. It's good. Yeah.
Didn't they put the 10 Commandments in the ark?
The tablets of stone that Moses brought in is what are there. But you'd have to go back and look to see if that was, I think, I get the sense that it was the whole, it wasn't just the 10 Commandments, that it was the law in general. So, but it's hard to imagine how you got, you know, all of that on, you know, 2 big stone tablets. So I'm sure it was a summary.
But even if this was a summary and not all of them, it starts out, I am the Lord your God.
You know it's there.
It's just the foundation.
Mhm.
of everything.
You know that was there, and we know the 10 Commandments were there.
Didn't they learn some engineering when they were in Egypt?
Yeah, they did, so I don't put anything past God, God can. So, but that is cool, and, you know, if you go to Rome, and you go to any of the big cathedrals in Europe, what's on the outside of the church buildings? Big steps, yeah.
Angels.
You see a lot of cherubim and seraphim, ceilings outside everywhere. So again, some of the more radical reformers would say, oh, all that stuff's bad. Give me just a plain box. Well, yeah, it's not in the New Testament, but we have the Old Testament model here. What, you know, that dresses things up. So what is to say we can't have some of that in our churches too? Although I don't think a cherubim or seraphim would fit our architecture here. But anyway, you know, it's kind of interesting that there's so much visual art a part of the tabernacle. I guess that's my point. Done.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, these, like the cherubim and having wings and all this, is like something that we can physically see that represents the Lord.
Yeah.
But then on another side of it, you think, well, did they end up just worshiping the
Yeah. The statue or the whatever it is, yeah.
instead of worshiping the Lord?
Right.
It's kind of going too far.
Right. And this is the question, and the more radical reformers said, y'all are worshiping that stuff, we're getting rid of it. Because you end up making it into an idol of some kind, you know, and that's just a matter of disagreement, you know, of, well, you know, can you still have those things and not worship? You know, how far do you go? You got the Quakers who literally I don't think they even have a cross in there. They just have a blank, you know, it's the Quaker furniture, you know, you've got this very simplistic art and pews, and no one even says anything. They just go in and sit in silence until somebody feels led by the Spirit to say something. That's it. You don't need a pastor there. Of course, if I was a Quaker, I'd be standing up and talking all the time. Anyway, the head elders would have to say, you only get one inspiration per Sunday. Oh, boy.
It's a long inspiration.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Okay, this is fun.
It's kind of interesting too that, at the anniversary banquet on the stairway, there was the baptismal font that Harold Dahl was.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. You know, and then that just brings a warm feeling in our heart. But even though it did a good job for Harold Dahl, we don't still use that same baptismal.
Right.
You know, we
Yeah.
honor that was good in the start of faith for him and his family and
Yeah.
the inspiration it brings to us. But we have
Yeah.
other ways we can baptize or
Right.
means, and we
Right.
still use the water. So
That's a great example of not worshiping something, but letting it perform a function. And so when it's time for a new font, you can get a new font, or, you know, yeah.
It's also our custom that use the ship's bell for baptism.
It's also our custom, what?
How to use the ship's bell.
Oh, yeah, there you go, that, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's
That-
used.
Yeah,
Family
interesting.
tradition.
Yeah, because again, you're being brought into the ark, onto the boat, when you're baptized. We're baptized into Christ, into the church. So all these things are just really rich and wonderful in meaning. And when I read this, I give thanks that we have that promise. So, okay, did I miss one over here, comment over here? Shall we go on to the making of the table? Let's see if we can do something with this. Verse 10 of 37, he also made the table of acacia wood. Acacia's got to be a really good wood. Do we even have we have acacia wood today? I'm assuming. Anybody who's a carpenter around here ever worked with acacia wood?
I just ordered some plank flooring from Lowe's.
Yeah,
It's acacia wood.
wow.
But it's plastic, but it's for. But it's supposed to look like.
It looks like acacia.
Hey, here's acacia wood.
We expect you to bring some of the scraps for us, for our thing.
I looked that up once, and that apparently that wood was all over where they were.
It was all over. It was a very common, yeah. Okay.
Apparently, it's one of the hardest woods.
It's a hard wood, yeah, and it's one of the hardest, yeah. So it was a good wood to use for sure. 2 cubits, I just had, and reminds me though, the people we visited in California and stayed with, they had done some remodeling. They had just gone through this horrible thing because the flooring that they put in, there's this tiny little beetle that sometimes gets hidden, and they actually put it in, and about 4 months later, they started to see these little, and they had to rip it all out, and then, because if it gets in everything, it's really hard beetle to get rid of, and so anyway. So don't use that kind of wood. 2 cubits was its length, a cubit its breadth, 2 cubits, so it's not huge, right? And a cubit and a half its height, and he overlaid it with pure gold and made a molding of gold around it. And he made a rim around it, a hand breadth wide. So we get was about 3 inches or 7.5 centimeters. So a hand breadth, I guess. And made a molding of gold around the rim. He cast for it 4 rings of gold and fastened the rings to the 4 corners of its 4 legs. Because we got to move all this stuff, right? Close to the frame were the rings as holders for the poles to carry the table. He made the poles of acacia wood to carry the table and overlaid them with gold. Does that mean, I suppose, that they had a thin layer of gold around the whole thing? Is that, yeah. That's a lot of gold. And he made the vessels of pure gold that were to be on the table, its plates and dishes for incense, and its bowls and flagons with which to pour drink offering. Okay, this is cool. We have a table. We have a table for the tabernacle. Again, different than our situation, but yet we have a table in our church. A lot of churches don't have a table. They just have a pulpit or a lectern or a stand.
Didn't we used to have a lot that looked like a coffin?
Some altars look more like a coffin, if you will.
In that old church.
Yeah.
But we didn't have a table.
And I don't know the exact reason for that, but it could be that in the big cathedrals, those altars are over the top of the apostles' bones.
There you go.
So they're, where they're on the foundation, literally on the foundation of the apostles, or what was thought to be the apostles. This gives me opportunity to remind you of the liturgical shifts or evolutions or ebb and flows. Do we have a table or an altar in our church? Roberta says table. You guys say altar. Who's right? Both of you. That's right. So, when I grew up, and I know a lot of you probably remember this. Let's say, this is the chancel area, and you are in the pews out there. It's time for the Lord's Supper. Where's the altar? It's up against the wall, right? That's where it used to be. So the pastor turns and does the words of institution and we don't really talk about it as a consecration, but for lack of a better word, the blessing of the elements, the facing the altar. And so in a lot of our churches, the emphasis was that the table is an altar where, the meal is done. That's a part of something that I think the danger of that is Lutherans and Episcopalians in particular, we do not talk about the Lord's Supper as a sacrifice. It brings you the gift of the sacrifice 2,000 years ago, but we're not sacrificing, we're not making our sacrifice to God in the Lord's Supper. We're simply putting Jesus's words with the elements that bring us God's promise and gift of forgiveness and grace. And but in the Catholic Church of Luther's day, and to some degree still today, they look at the Lord's Supper as a sacrifice that the priest does. Now, whether the priest is behind even in the Catholic Church, they've moved the altars out. So the pastor gets behind so that the people can see. So even in Roman Catholic churches, they're doing that more. But I want to make sure you understand, this is one of Luther's fundamental early critiques of the Mass. This comes from his Babylonian Captivity of the Church that he wrote in between 1517 and 1520, that the way the Mass was being done was completely wrong, because you had priests in the big cathedrals, you have all these little altars all over. And you'd have Mass going on constantly. Why? Because it's our sacrifice to God. So we're making these sacrifices to God. And it doesn't matter if anybody's hearing, and it's only the priest that eats the bread and drinks the wine, because it's a sacrifice. And Luther said, what are you doing? When you do the Lord's Supper, it's for the people, to give them the gifts of God. It's not a work that we do that pleases God. It's God giving to us. You see the difference? So I like the moving of the altar out as a table. It is an altar. An altar is the place, a holy place, but a lot of liturgical folks, when you go to seminary, you have your liturgics class, and the professors are all very, passionate about how stuff, but they really, in my day, emphasize that it's a table where we give people the Lord's Supper, more than an altar. An altar is a place of sacrifice.
So are you behind the table then? Instead of like.
So that was a part of moving the altar out, having it function more as a table. Now it's a holy table. And I think I like the term altar because it is the place where the sacrament is given. Altar to me is a holy space.
Was biblical.
Yeah, right. It is. But it's also biblical as a table, because that's what this was. There were all kinds of altars in the tabernacle, but this is a special table. And I think about our altar as a table. I would say I'm 60% table, 40% altar. You know, I mean, because it is an altar, it is a holy space, and I want to talk about it that way, because it's not just some dinner table somewhere that, like at home, but yet it is the place of the meal. It is the place of the sacrament of the altar, you could say, or sacrament of the Lord. That's the place of the Lord's Supper. But with the focus that this is for you, God giving this gift for you. Okay, Gloria, and then, or either one of you.
And maybe bring from the table to the table, you know.
That's
because
true now.
We get the.
Yeah. That's true now. Now you actually do eat from a table. Yes, Sharon, and then back to Gloria.
Presbyterian, many years,
Yeah,
and Methodist and all that before that. It's referred to as the communion table.
communion table, and I like that. I think it's not just an ordinary table, it's a communion table.
Covering
Yeah, Georgiana, yeah.
wine after service.
So the wine that is not used, that cannot be reused, is poured into the earth. We do not pour it down the drain. Yeah, yeah. So, and that's the same way with bread that we don't use. It's supposed to go back to the earth. We treat it in a special way because it's been, you know, it's been the vehicle, it's been the host, and it is the host. And so we don't, but this is where Lutherans have a little more wiggle room, because we don't say that the bread and wine change into something, but that it becomes the host. I like the term host because it's the vehicle by which Jesus's real body and blood is present to us, his very presence. So as such, we want to treat the bread and wine that's been on the altar, on the table, with a certain amount of reverence. But we don't have to worry if crumbs spill into the carpet, you know.
Is there a special place around here where you pour the?
I don't know that. I'd have to ask the altar. I'd have to ask the altar care. I think they just somewhere out to the ground. It's usually they probably go out this door and pour it back to the earth. Yes.
Is the altar or the table also?
Well, you need to ask him about it, and he said he didn't know.
Is the altar or table a symbolic replacement of the ark?
As kind of I don't know, I don't know. where that-
Catholic altars have a tabernacle.
Catholic altars or chancel areas have a tabernacle, and that tabernacle, and they call it the tabernacle, holds bread that's been consecrated and not used, because all wafers will get used. And so if there's leftover, that goes in the tabernacle. And that is, if I understand this right, some of you with more Roman Catholic background than me, why when Roman Catholics come into the sanctuary, they always reverence, because Jesus is up there. He's in the tabernacle, because that bread is no longer bread. It may look like bread, but it's not bread. They use the transubstantiation word. So now let's go back to Kathy's point. I don't know that it's a replacement, but there's a connection there, because if the Lord's Supper brings me the forgiveness of sins, do this in remembrance of me for the forgiveness of sins, it is a kind of mercy seat. But I think we just have to be careful. Say some more though. You were gonna say, yeah.
Say, like, aside from communion,
Yeah.
is there a function of kind of focus or just meeting God and worshiping there? Or do you not see that?
No, I do see that. I think absolutely I see that. So if the tabernacle is this special place where, okay, how is it different? How is it similar? No, God set up a place where the infinite God could be present and people could encounter that God. They would know his presence. They would know the promise that God was going with them, right? That is it. We've been working with that in Exodus. You know, that God is going to still stick with the people, even though they're apostate, even though they don't stick with God. God's going to stick with them. And that's what this tabernacle is a promise of. Well, human beings, we need a space. We need these things. And so our sanctuary is absolutely that. It's the place where we get the promise that God is with us. So is that kind of the connect? Absolutely. Now, do we have to have that? No, we could meet in the park and worship. We could have, you know, I mean, back when we were trying to really go crazy with trying to, how do we reach out to our culture? Let's have pop-up church, you know, just someday, well, we'll have church out in this park or that park and let people see what we're doing, you know, and maybe that's still a good idea, but it helps us to have a space. It helps us. Although, this is another thing. Maybe this is another good comment to make as we're reading through the furniture of the tabernacle. I had an architect who helped us remodel our sanctuary in California. Pretty sure he did, yeah. But he said something, or he quoted someone that always stuck with me. We shape our spaces, and they forever after shape us. And I think it's really true. And so our space is really important. And I think, you know, everybody's always wondering, well, why is it the mainline churches and Lutheran churches have declined? And why is, you know, well, there's not a billion, but many reasons why. But one of the things is our spaces are a hindrance today, oftentimes. Not here. This church was built, you know, in 1990. So I think it's actually been a huge asset. I have people that say, I just walked into your church and I said, I knew this was my church before they even talked to anybody. And you know what? I kind of had the same experience. Now that isn't just because of the architecture of the church. It's just the whole spirit of the congregation, but more so than anything. And I think it doesn't matter what space you have, you could be a vibrant, strong, wonderful church. But sometimes those spaces work against you, especially in our culture today, where they want to be right up more close, more tactile. And, you know, anyway, I kind of just want to field here. Okay, couple comments and then we'll get back to the table. Yeah.
You often have said that we aren't the audience, God is the
Yes.
audience.
Yes.
Well, he at the altar.
Yes.
Watching us.
Right.
That's where we're.
Right.
And so I, you know, it's kind of like the mercy seat and stuff.
Yeah, so, yeah, and so there's a spot where there's some holy, very holy spaces. And that's powerful. We invest, like I also quoted one of my seminary profs said, we invest in these things so that when we need them, they pay off. They, you know, in truth, God is no more present at that table in our sanctuary than God is out in the parking lot. But God's but for us, maybe this is important too. It's the function of the furniture that makes it holy. Yeah. Going back to what Ethel May said about the Herald's baptismal font. What makes that space holy is what happens there. And notice in the Lutheran Church, what the three main furniture items are. What do you have in our sanctuary, chancel? Pulpit. Altar. Yeah, well, the cross is the thing, but the actual furniture is font, table, and pulpit. Word and sacrament. That's what you see. So you've got the font up there. I don't mind the font being at the entrance of the church, which is kind of the vogue thing now, to build sanctuaries where you got this huge font as you enter the church. I think that's cool, but I also think it's cool to have that font up there where people can see it all the time. So, but yeah, Andrew,
As a secondary note,
yeah,
the way you describe Luther has real, it's not about me at the front, it's about you, the people, as real democracy bias.
it does. Luther would not have probably gone that far as like a democracy, but he definitely, a big thing, Andrew, in the Reformation, absolutely was in our churches, it was all about the priest. The chancel areas are massive, and you got these little spots where everybody's squeezed in. Luther reversed that. He said, no, the reason the church exists is to give people the goods. Give them the Lord's Supper and baptism and the preaching of the word. That's why we gather. So, he talked about a priesthood of all believers. He said, we're all priests, according to Peter, 1 Peter, we're a nation of priests. So yes, he definitely got that back. Okay, I saw Audrey and then maybe Berta, yeah.
This doesn't have anything to do with the furniture, but I heard recently that churches face east. Is that so?
That there is a tradition that you face east for the rising of the sun, for the resurrection. I believe there has definitely been something to that, if possible. Yeah. But now we face, I always get mixed up. I've been here 17 years, and I still don't know which way is west. That's west. So we do face east. There we go. Because we face east, not the altar. So the people, because we're looking for the resurrection. There has been something to that. Berta.
In our old church, we had a lectern and an altar.
Yes.
Why did we get rid of the lectern?
Great question.
What is that?
Berta's question was, in our old church, we had a lectern and a pulpit.
Well, we have one.
And did we have that here too as well? That's when you moved up to this spot?
Yeah,
You had both? Really? Not since I've been.
the band went up there and moved one of them, didn't they? Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you why. And you're not gonna like it. No, I'm just kidding. You're gonna be like, yes, let's get back to having two. The lectern was the lay people's place to read the scriptures, and the pulpit is for the pastor. So it was, and then the new liturgical movement is, wait a minute, it's the place of the word. It isn't the place of the pastor. See, so I like not having two different ones personally. Yeah. What's that? The pulpit is sometimes more elevated, is bigger and highlighted more. I certainly grew up with the church that way, but in truth, it's better in place of the word, place of the supper, and place of the baptism. So I like that kind of focus. But all these things are things to help us receive the gospel. Yeah. And so we've got a table here, which is really dressed up, and we haven't even talked about what's on the table necessarily. We got made the vessels of pure gold that were on the table. Andrew, you had a comment, and then Mary.
Yeah, it's about both the lectern and the pulpit.
Yeah.
And what I just said, it's very undemocratic to have the two things distinctly. It's like, we have the place where the special guy says things, we have the place where the secondary.
Yeah. And so this is where the more modern critique of that practice, all these things, these are all things that have trade-offs. There's pluses and minuses. Is it really helpful to highlight the office of pastor, that people respect that and that it pays off for them as they need it? Yeah, that's good. But is it really good to distinguish the reading of a lay person versus a pastor? No, that's not good either. So there's trade-offs. There's pluses and minuses to both ways. But I'm with you, Andrew. I like the fact, and you know what? Something this congregation, it's been your practice. I don't know when it started. What pastor before? I should have asked him at the anniversary. Who started this? I've never been in a church where a layperson read the gospel reading.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is completely unique to SLC. You didn't know that.
Yeah.
The layperson reads the Old Testament and the epistle, and the pastor always reads the gospel, right? Yeah. And I have said, okay, I'll go with that. I'm not gonna, it's not, I kind of sometimes like reading the gospel reading because it just helps me preach on a little bit. But no, I haven't challenged that because, you know, I have had a few lay people say, you should be reading the gospel. You're the pastor. I have had some people say that to me, who come from other churches, yeah.
Missouri said, listen, we women were not even allowed up on the election.
There you go, that's true, and some,
I transferred to ELCA, and originally, anybody could read, the first part, but the pastor always had to do the gospel.
yeah, the pastor always read the gospel. Yeah, yeah, and so you got Missouri that if you're a woman, you don't,
You're not even-
Now, my Missouri church in Phoenix was radical and women read scriptures. So I come from that, no, but yeah.
Way back when, my Catholic, only the priest gave communion. And then we started allowing the lay people to have give communion. There's, oh my God, how can lay people do that?
Yes, right,
That was
right.
a big shift. Got
Yeah.
to hear it, allowing lay people to give.
To distribute communion, yes,
Right.
yes, right. And now they actually have, our Eucharistic ministry where we take, some of the elements from the altar and take it to people. That actually happens in the Catholic Church a lot. Yeah. Because the priests, they don't have enough priests and they don't have, and so they have lay people who are consecrated to do that ministry. But it's the same kind of practice where elements are taken from that.
That was really something when that was started.
Yes, that was a big deal.
Big deal.
Yeah, it was big that like, wow, can we, yeah. So, I knew that when we got into the furniture, this would really enliven great conversation. Joyce, yeah,
Well, I'm just gonna blurt it right out.
okay.
It bothers me a lot that the musicians are up on the altar. It bothers me a lot.
Because that's a sacred space.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah.
I said it.
You said it. No, it's got pluses and minuses. People can see the leadership of the musicians better. It truthfully, that it is a
We have
practice.
space for musicians on the right.
Okay, but if we got lay people to come in and take 2.5, 3 hours to reset up that space every time, then we could do it that way. Because it is a massive undertaking to put the musicians in the choir loft and then move them back and forth and reset up. So I have to be honest, it's a practical thing.
I understand.
Yeah, but and you're not
I
alone.
want everybody to know.
Thank you. Joyce, this time, when the pickers play next, I'm gonna try and scoot over as much as I can. No, I don't mean to make light of it. You're not alone. You're not alone. Other people have expressed that uncomfort.
And also, it bothers me a lot that they're clapping after the.
Oh, now you've gone too far. Now you have just gone too far.
It's supposed to be a reverent kind of a thing, and
It's a-
people are, it makes me so mad.
Okay, well, take a breath. And this is where these things should be. They are important, but there's trade-offs, okay?
Yes, I know.
Kathy wants to jump in on this. I don't know about clapping, but
Yeah, I'm not great, I'm not big on clap either, but having musicians in that same space opposite where the reader is, the musicians are sharing the word.
nice,
Oh, yeah.
nice.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Mike, yeah.
It doesn't change my mind.
Oh, well, we didn't think we were gonna change your mind. Mike, and then one more, yeah.
In the church I normally go to, we
call it special music, so it's, the musicians go up there and they share something that is part of the studies that day.
Yeah, right, right.
So it's not just a musical theme, it's also following the theme of the.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be the songs for the day.
Yeah, right. So they are preaching the word. They're proclaiming the word. Like,
Preaching the words.
yeah. Yeah. Thank you, because I hadn't thought about that response to Joyce yet, so. Now I've got, and others. So, you know, these all things come up because this is sacred space. And so the plus about this is that it is a sacred space. And so we need to treat it as such. And does it take away to have the musicians up there or not? For some people it does. And they've had to wrestle with some uncomfort about that. Other people it doesn't. So there's trade-offs to everything when it comes to some of this. Clapping is the same way. I would be delighted if we never clapped when someone performed or sang ever again. But you get like, let's say one of our kids of our congregation, and they get up there and they sing a special music and you don't clap.
Yeah.
It feels to people like we're like,
Yeah.
So if we don't clap, we need to have something else. This is sign language. This is sign language for clapping. Doing this. In Baptist Pentecostal churches, and please don't clap after my sermon. I know, thank you.
I remember one time they did.
Oh, they've done it a few times now, and it's cool, but it makes me uncomfortable. But I sure would love it if you said amen and you said it out loud.
We can do that.
Absolutely. If you really like, man, Pastor Jonathan, you nailed it today, and that really helped me. I heard the gospel when Jonathan says amen, you say amen. That's the better way to go. And maybe that's a way we could do after special music. But it's just a weird thing in our culture, because clapping is like, thank you. And like, it's our way of participating. So to say no clapping, it's got some downsides too. Andrew, you want to get in here? Yeah.
Yeah, just to add to what was just said, do recall we've just read very specific mentions about the artisans contributing to the tabernacle.
Yes.
And you could say people singing are artisans.
Artisans, yeah. No, well, that's true. So I don't know what to do about the clapping. For a while, back when Lynn was here, Justin doesn't like to do this, so I don't push it, but Lynn would say, please don't clap after this one.
Yeah.
Because it's a soft, that's what I really don't like. Is when it's a soft song and it's beautiful and it's reverent, and then somebody,
Yeah.
and no one else thinks they should clap, so you get like a few people. And then everybody joins in because it's rude not to, and it's a mess. So I don't know if we had a symbol, you can clap today, or, but we can move on from the clapping. Thank you.
Well, just one personal experience, well, we've been in lots of different churches moving around the country.
Yes,
This is the first church we've ever been to where there's slapping.
where the first one.
I mean, like, looking for. What's this?
Yeah. You know, a similar thing is it's about the reverence of the place, right? Okay, but the tension around that, just so that, you know, both sides go here. I'll give the story, it's easy, I'll talk about my former congregation. And when I came there, they did not clap. Now, I think they eventually started to, but I didn't start that. But no one talked before the service either.
That would be.
Church.
I have one. It's so much that I don't do it.
All right, well, guess what? When guests come into that church, they don't go, oh, wow, what a reverent place. They go, what a cold as fish place. I'm out of here.
That's true.
Yes.
So this is what I'm telling you. There are pluses and minuses to everything. So just, you know, when we get, just remember there is a plus you know? And a sense of freedom, whatever. So anyway, cool. Back to the table. Yes, one more, please.
Going back to the table.
Yeah,
So we have items that are holy and all these things with special reverence. But what can happen, we can maybe get too focused on those things versus they're a vehicle for
Yeah.
transporting God's spirit to us.
excellent,
We
excellent.
We have to stop worshiping the
Yeah.
objects.
Yeah. That's the tension we live in. We don't want these things to become items of worship, but yet we want them, we need them and they help us. I have, it comes up, we're out of time, but it comes up even with what kind of vessels you use for the Lord's Supper. Jonathan is a more earthenware guy. He likes the straight. If you put a ceramic cup up there, he'd be just, yes. Because he's more earthy. I like the gold. So, here we got gold around everything. This is the Lord's Supper, so shouldn't you put it in something that's really valuable and really, but for Jonathan, I think I can speak for him, that's ostentatious or, no, Jesus, it's the incarnations, so you want earthenware, you want some clay.
What kind of cup did Jesus use?
Well, according to the Indiana Jones and the law, it wasn't made of gold. It probably was not a gold, that's just like the greatest scene, That's the cup of a cup. In my family, because we've watched that movie so many times, in my family, we have a little saying. I don't know, you guys know what we're talking about? In Indiana Jones, where they find the cup, the Holy Grail, yes, the Grail, and but there's all these cups up there, and so this guy that was the bad guy, the villain, has to pick out which cup is, and if he drinks from the real cup, he has eternal life, and if he doesn't, it's eternal damnation, whatever. And so he ends up drinking the wrong cup, of course, and the knight stands there and says, he chose poorly. And so in my family, we always, when we've made him, you chose poorly. Anyway, okay, that's fun. We're out of time. We got the lampstand, so we don't have to go to a different book quite yet. We got the lampstand, we got the altar of incense. I don't know about some of these others. So we might, really zip through those. Priestly garments. We'll see if we can really make ground, but I think the lampstand is gonna take some time next week, so that's where we're at next week. God bless you, enjoy a beautiful day, yes.
Looked up the amount of gold today, 2633, $2,633.
$2,633, 1 ounce of gold. Yeah. So actually, we should probably be locking up our chalices, because they are actual gold chalices. Yeah, they are locked up. That's true, they are. Okay, have a great day. God bless you guys. We'll see you this weekend. Oh, we are sorry, that was too loud. We are setting up for the memorial reception. So if you can stay and help and spread out, we're gonna take down the little square tables and get out the rounds. That would be really good. Ross, are you able to help? Ross will tell you what to do. All right. Stop this.